a ride is out of the question.
Down with this sort of thing. Careful now. The nation holds its breath. Yes!
Hello and welcome to Friends in Low Places, the podcast hosted by four middle-aged men maturing like a fine wine or maybe even a single malt whiskey, light-heartedly discussing the broader aspects of everyday life. Gentlemen, all good? How are you doing?
Hey, Johnny, how are you?
Hey, Sean.
Hi, Sean. How are things, lad? You managed without me last week, just about, did you?
Yeah, I think we probably had our highest
Touch and go.
audience.
Yeah, you did a fantastic job. I don't think you need me at all, but go on.
We're glad to see you back, and you brought friends. So
I brought
hello to all
friends
your
from
friends.
Mo's Tavern, yeah. This office is amazing, yeah.
I'll suck up, Aaron. We missed you. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, lad.
It's in our contracts to keep you in the show, so we can't get rid of you, unfortunately.
Good stuff.
But anyway, let's stay on the subject of Aaron Walsh, because before we kick off today's episode, we have some unfinished business from our last podcast, Love Factory, where Aaron had left us 3 work scenarios, 2 of which really did happen, and one
It was Dreams versus Direct Debits. Love Factually was the one before, Sean.
It was Dreams versus Direct Debits. You're totally right. Factually was the one before. There you go. That's a live middle-aged moment by Sean. It was Dreams. It was work. Well, you know, the magic of editing. I might use that for this particular gaff. Okay, so let's look at the work scenario number 1. Let's see.
Hi guys, me again. Yeah, so we'll call this one Sending the Wrong File to Print. So when I was working in Cork back in 2001, we were doing a promotion for a furniture company, which were next door to us in the business park. So the promotion was for 3-piece suites, SUITES. So I sent the file to print. I think it was 10,000 flyers at the time or something. So your man had them all distributed, and we just spotted on a billboard downtown that it said 3-piece suits. So everyone thought it was for a wedding or a shop. So she's nearly got the sack for that one. Anyway, don't send the wrong file to print.
Okay, Mike, I think you said that for you that was the false one.
That was the false one. That was the lie.
Yeah, Aaron, true or false?
That is true, lads. Of course it is. It's true. Trust
me.
Way.
Jesus Christ. 10,000 to print.
It was only a small bit of paper. It was all right.
So you did nearly get the sack then, Aaron, I'm guessing.
I suppose I didn't do a spell check. I can't remember. It was 2000. I didn't have a spell check in 2000, maybe.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
All right, okay. Oh, man. Here comes scenario number 2.
Hi, lads. How are you keeping? Sorry I can't be on this pod. Just a couple for you to decipher whether they're true or false. So last year I got a new printer. Big Xerox, about 12 by 4. So everything started to finance, etc. Your man arrives down from Dublin. Oh, you bought a printer here for you. Oh, no bother, says I, yeah. We got it out of the van there, so we got it out in 3 bits and came up to the door of the office and fucking printer wouldn't fit in. Your man couldn't believe it. He said, oh, it's just already bought enough fit in the door. So we had to take the door frame off, which took an hour and a half, and got the printer in eventually, and needless to say, your man wasn't impressed, but fair play to him. Jesus, bud, you're holding up me whole day. So lads, do you think that happened or didn't happen? But so the moral of that story is always measure your printer. Thanks guys, talk soon.
Niall, you put your money on that one.
Reluctantly, because I wanted the last one to be true.
Aaron, true or false?
That was true, and I'd like to apologise to any of my Dublin cousins who are listening for me trying to do a Dublin accent.
I think you do a very good Dublin accent.
Yeah. Try my best. That was true, yeah. We just never measured the fucking door, so yeah.
Okay, which means by process of elimination, the third one must be false. But we'll have a listen to it anyway, because I think it was a good one. Aaron.
It was brilliant.
So lads, yeah, this is the last one now. A little voice note of Levy, Lovey and Levy. We'll call this one Non-Existent White Ink. I think this happened a couple of years ago. So a client complained that the areas in the design were not white enough, the white areas, when they printed on their office printer at home or in the office. So I explained that printers don't print white ink, they just leave the paper blank, and it depends on the colour of the paper, how white the paper is. So the client was arguing then that he'd use liquid white on the paper to make it whiter and expected the printer to do the same. So I just gave up in the end. It's amazing what people convince themselves to be true, isn't it? Okay, love you, Levy. Talk soon.
Brilliant. It sounds like it could be true, though. I mean,
it's such a good lie, Aaron. It deserves to be true.
It does. I can imagine it happening. It'd be amazing what people come up with, but anyway, yeah.
Fair play.
Yeah, good
That's
stuff.
believable.
Brilliant.
Okay, thank you very much, Aaron. That was 3 work scenarios from our last podcast. Work, dreams versus direct debit. Got it right. Okay, now, just to remind our good listeners, us 4, we've been mates since the early 90s, and Mike and Aaron, I guess, since the 80s, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And despite our different trajectories in life, we have managed to keep close contact consistently over all these years. And so we thought this might be a really good subject to discuss upon, and friendship. So that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. And Mike, you're going to lead us with friends we used to have that maybe we're inseparable from, and did life maybe intervene in our friendships and relationships?
Yeah, I might have no friends after this.
You've probably, yeah, the 3 of us, I guess.
Podcast for one.
Exactly. Aaron, you're going to take us through friendship from a kind of middle-age perspective. And then, Niall, you would lead us into a game entitled The Person Most Likely To. Looking forward to that. And then we'll have a little bit of reflection then at the end on this podcast and its impact on our friendship and whether we're ready to kill each other or not. It's probably good that we're doing the podcast. We're doing the podcast from separate locations and not physically all together. But before we jump into any of that, I thought I'd just give a quick kind of insight into the origins of friendship or friend, and some statistics. So the word friend has Germanic roots, and it comes from the word friondus, and that means beloved person. And it shares its roots with 2 other words, which I thought were interesting. It shares its root with the word free, which also meant beloved, and also the word Friday, which is derived from the Norse goddess Freya, which also meant beloved. So that's the origins of the word friend. I know. Maybe you find it interesting. Maybe you don't. But
That's always on a Friday.
Every day is a school day. I didn't know that before today.
There you go. That's what you learned through the magic door this week, guys. And some stats then when it comes to friendship. So people maintain 3 to 5 close friendships on average. Close friendships tend to last longer when formed in school or early adulthood. Proof in the pudding. Men are far more likely to say that they're going to meet a friend for a quick pint. And
5 or 6 pints at least.
Which is what,
3 hours.
3 hours.
Please.
Depends on your friend and who you're drinking with, but that could be 30 minutes for some people, I know. And then, of course, I'm interested in cultures and all that, and I had a bit of a look on friendship patterns in different cultures. So, Latin and Mediterranean kind of culture, they have many friends and they have frequent meetings, and that's basically due to the whole cafe kind of culture. In the Nordics, they have few friends but strong and durable relationships. Anglo-American, they have a moderate number of friends, and that tends to decline the older they get, and that's usually due to working long hours and not being able to have friends. And in Asia, there's not so much focus on friendship, but the focus is more on family. So very small number of friends, and more focus on family. Any guesses as to where Ireland would fit into those type of categories?
I would guess losing friends through work as you get older, it'll broadly follow that.
Yeah. No, actually, we're very close to Mediterranean Latin.
Okay.
And I kind of...
That's the pub culture.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the connect the dots there. So, yeah, where we have a bit of Latin culture.
That said, the pub culture in Ireland, I would say, I don't know if it's dying, but it's certainly changed quite radically in the last 10 to 15 years. So it'll be interesting if that has an impact then on friendships as well.
Exactly. And I guess it leads to your point as well, that your guess that it's kind of moderate, and like the Anglo-American one, where work is kind of taken up so much more time that we don't have the luxury maybe, or the energy to commit to friendships that, like to have maybe in the Mediterranean and Latin countries. But anyway, that was some interesting statistics maybe on friendship. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Mr. McCarroll.
Thanks, Sean. So, friends we used to have, I suppose, school friends versus our adult friends. I suppose we can say we're living proof of school friends, as you mentioned already. But school friendships were probably mainly based on proximity. We were in each other's face at school, versus the friends that you have now that you meet, whether it be through work or through other life events. The kind of school friends you had that were probably inseparable from. You had the same lunch breaks, played on the same teams, had similar interests in music or hurling, football, handball, whatever it was. I suppose even looked a little the same. Maybe had the same haircuts. When you
Mike,
were
you were always taller than me now. You were always taller than me. You still are.
Yeah, always taller than you. Yeah. Probably shared a lot of the same opinions on things, and you liked everything and everyone, and you didn't fall. You fell with each other the same way. You were sort of a package deal. Arrived at events maybe together. You were just sort of besties, I suppose. But nowadays, you probably find some people you haven't spoken to them in 3 years, but if you met them on the street, you'd still be glad to see them. Probably say we should make plans to meet, parting ways, saying, yeah, we're definitely going to do that, but then you don't, and you both know you won't, probably, So what do you think has happened, guys? Are school friendships built differently? As I said, they're built around proximity. We were in each other's pockets probably for 30 hours a week, for 5 days a week, 6 years or so. In our case, well, I suppose as I mentioned earlier, Aaron and myself know each other a little longer, but you knew each other from first year. I didn't actually arrive into St. Elby's until transition year, so I only had 3 years of you, and I got stuck with you. So,
you missed the best 3 years, Mike. The first 3 years were the best.
First 3 years were the best, yeah. We probably spent our summer holidays as well hanging around with each other. So that constant in your presence is what built those stronger relationships.
Yeah. So I would say with our friendships, and again, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, because there's obviously, Sean's in Belgium, I'm in Dublin. We don't get to see each other, at least physically, that often. So while the friendship has kind of matured and perhaps to a certain extent changed, for me there has always been elements of it that have remained pretty static or the same. So in other words, one of the reasons I would suggest why I've remained friends with you guys, so even though I mightn't see you regularly, when we do meet up, which could only be once a year, in some cases it's almost like we only just met up last week. So the time in between doesn't seem to impact the friendship in a way that certainly with other friendships I've had, it impacts them. Now that's my interpretation of it. I don't know if it's different for you guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it's to kind of go back maybe to your very first point. I think there was a natural, the why we kind of gelled together, I suppose, at the beginning, because we just had a similar kind of outlook on school life, similar interests, that we kind of probably at some point said, okay, this guy is an asshole. I think I'll stick with him for a while, and then it just, I think because the relationship was easy and there was no egos, it just naturally kind of grew together. And I think, like you say, Niall, and for me that was kind of the foundation. And when you think about it, for many years there wasn't the whole we had mobile phones, but we did go like long periods where like we didn't see each other, where we still kept in contact, but we didn't have the whole social media thing and WhatsApp thing for many years, and we survived that. And like you say, like every time we see each other, it's like we saw each other last week. It's
Yeah, and the other thing I would say there was, at least from my perception, is there was always, relatively speaking, effort put in to a certain extent to maintain the relationship. Now that could have been something as simple as checking in to see how things were going, but nonetheless, you guys would have done that and done that relatively consistently, whereas other friends you might or might not have didn't do that to the same degree. So certainly, that was, I suppose, an aspect for me as well, or something that, because I do think when you're younger, sometimes it's kind of hard to qualify friendships one way or the other.
Yeah.
But as you get that little bit older, I suppose you tend to figure out what's maybe important in terms of a friendship, and then you move your friends up and down, so to speak, as a result of that, what becomes important to you.
Yeah. And I think what's really interesting, like kind of like I said a little bit earlier, we have very much different trajectories in life.
Yeah.
All four of us, like, so, we weren't hanging out of each other's pockets, if you know what I mean. And to have such different trajectories that keep the same buzz that we had when we were like, I still think we're in school every time we meet,
Yeah. Well, the last couple of years, like Sean, if you're coming home in the summer or something, one of us always makes an effort. We have a get together. Like the last one we had was Niall's wedding last summer, and that was fantastic. So it's, as you said, it's like we're talking to 5 minutes ago. It's great.
Yeah.
Look, guys, look, we were friends. We were in the same building for 30 hours a week, possibly. Surviving Irish class, probably puberty, and the occasional flying duster. I think we kind of bonded over those events. You don't necessarily have that scenario with your now adult friends or friends that you have met later in life. We might have gotten into trouble together, I suppose. Gotten into the odd scrap or two after a disco. Or like in that scene from The Town with Ben Affleck.
Speak for yourself, Mikey.
Like you're an angel, Mike. You never get into trouble.
Maybe we kept you out of an odd scrap or two after a disco, Mikey.
Yeah. No, Niall, that was you. We kept you out of a scrap after a disco.
I must have been very drunk. I can't remember. Go on.
I have a great scene here, guys, from The Town. Actually, I'm just going to play it there for you because I think it's an example of school life. Go for it.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later. We're going to hurt some people.
So that's it, guys. Whose car are we going to take?
Great movie.
Yeah.
Great movie, by the way.
Love that clip, yeah. I suppose the loyalty we had in those relationships, it's very unreal. 15 or 16, it was dramatic, but now it's just complicated, as you said already, Niall, because of adult friendships, it's more effort-based than proximity. It's now that we're all busy, I suppose, at our 9 to 5s, I know well for nowadays, if I'm planning anything in advance, I've got to put it in my phone and make it a calendar entry, It wasn't like that when you were younger and developing friendships, we actually have to commit to something, as you said already. Sometimes we might have to travel somewhere or work around family or work life, and make it work. Let's be honest, most of us aren't great at maintaining long distance relationships, albeit we might exclude Shawnee from that statement,
a kind of a follow-on question, guys, and you can tell me here, and again, I don't know. So in terms of your kids, and I know some of your kids are older than mine, but in terms of your kids' friendships, and in other words, guiding your kids in terms of friendships one way or the other, I have to be honest, that's something I probably struggle with, because you obviously want to let them make their own friends and to a certain extent make their own mistakes in terms of friendship, but at the same time then you want to kind of steer them on how to recognize a good friend, maybe not such a good friend. So I find that navigating that as a parent, I have to say I found that difficult and challenging. When do you step in? When do you not step in? How do you kind of manage all of that, so to speak?
It's hard. It's hard. My son, he won't mind me saying this, but he hasn't. He's had a couple of friends that I rather he didn't have in the past, but that's it. But it's different now, and he's really good friends with two close guys, and I can see similarities now that I have with you guys, and he has with these two guys, Joey and Sonny. Because his manner changes. You know, he's just much more calm with them, and similar interests, and you know, they're kind of setting their goals, what to do for the next couple of years. Whereas when he is in his mid-teens, probably didn't have the best of friends, or friends that were good for him. And my daughter kind of went through something similar as well, and she was close to, you know, some friends, and they turned out to be not so nice and kind of bullyish, and but that she was strong-willed herself, and she made a decision that this isn't good for me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna drop them, and then I'm gonna move on and find someone else. And she has, and she's got really two good friends. But it's not easy to navigate. I have to say.
Yeah, and I think when you're younger, in a sense, it can be sometimes hard to know what represents a good friendship or maybe a bad friendship, and sometimes you might go for things that don't necessarily represent a good friendship. It's really with time and a little bit of maturity and a little bit of experience, I suppose. So, and again, that's just the process of growing up, so to speak. But yeah, that's definitely something that I find challenging.
But these days, I think we're more involved with our kids' friendship relationships. I mean, we're not. We seem to be more aware of who they're with. I don't know. When I was growing up, I don't feel that my parents were that involved in my friendships or relationships, or wanted to know. Maybe not. You know, no disrespect to my parents; they were great parents.
The thing I'd say nowadays, though, is because particularly with online and they're connected, and you know, like to a certain extent, you know, unless you lived close by to someone that were your neighbor or something like that, once you left school, you didn't meet that friend, or maybe not that friend again until the following day. Whereas nowadays they go home, you know, they're still in contact with this individual. So it's very 24/7. So if that's not a healthy friendship, or in some cases, you know, if it's the opposite to a friendship, it can have a very detrimental effect, so to speak.
Yeah. But nowadays, as I often say here in the household, you know, kids, they know what their friends had for their breakfast, you know, before they even get out of bed in the morning. I mean, like we didn't probably, you know, maybe during summer months, you mightn't have seen each other for 2 or 3 weeks, you know. They're very connected, and that's, it's not a good thing, you know. Nearly to the point where if you see your child now and they aren't on the phone at kind of the normal times when they use it, you're kind of wondering what's wrong. Is there something wrong? Have they had a falling out or a spat or something, you know? As I said, we're probably more in tune with our children's friendships now than, you know, families everywhere or parents everywhere. You know?
I've seen my daughter have virtual breakfasts. It's like 7:30 in the morning. I said, "Who are you talking to?" "I'm talking to Charlotte." "Did she stay?" No, they're on the phone on the kitchen counter. But yeah, it is what it is. Like, yeah, maybe we have a tendency to be a bit nostalgic and stuff like that. But I think you have to let them find their way when it comes to friendship. You can steer them, and you can, if something doesn't work out with someone, be there for them. But ultimately, like they choose their friends.
But if you raise them to be a good judge of character, hopefully they'll find the proper path. So,
yeah, I mean, that's probably the key. Yeah,
my two lads are pretty good now at sussing people out, so they've a nice little circle of friends, each of them now. So just keep an eye on it. It's hard going, but I mean, you can't mollycoddle them the whole time either, like, you know.
Yeah,
it's true.
And by extension, then, if your kids are friends with someone, there's a kind of an obligation almost on the parents to be friends or be at least friendly. I have to say, again, that's another challenge for me.
Yeah, but you know, my friends over here, there's a few of them that I've met because of my kids, you know. And I suppose the friend that I'm closest to it over here. Big shout out to Chris. Yeah, we met through our kids going to school together, like, you know, and we've become good friends now since I moved over here. The kids are good for something, aren't they? Mike.
So, and nearly wrapping up, guys. Yeah. So in some cases, you know, some of those friendships, probably those more adult friendships that were made over time may have drifted slightly. Was it a case of they just drifted, or was it that life intervened in some way? But I suppose we just get busy. I don't think it was a case that some friendships just ended. They just got outpaced by walking the dog and doing the school run. It's life.
Yeah. For me, because I've lived in different places and I've had really good friends in that particular place at that particular time, and then either I moved or they moved, and life just happens, and somebody we're really close to. Some we keep in contact, some we haven't keep in contact, and before I used to feel really bad about it, but I kind of just got to the point where that's just life. You go through life and you're in a place or situation and you become really good friends with some people or whatever, and that ends for whatever circumstances, and as long as it doesn't end badly, then we have nothing to feel bad about, and then you just move on to the next thing, and that's how it is,
Yeah, the other thing, we're probably inclined to fall into the trap, I would suggest, of saying that something is a friendship if it maintains as a friendship, and if it doesn't maintain as a friendship, then you kind of no longer consider it a friendship. Whereas probably in actual fact, a more realistic, like you can have a friend for a period of time, it might be a very meaningful friendship. You don't maintain contact, but for that period of time, it was a very meaningful. So I would say to have friends such as we do for such a long time is unusual, you know what I mean? But even if, you're friendly with someone for a couple of years, and for the couple of years it's a meaningful friendship, to my mind, it's still a friendship.
Yeah.
Even though if it hasn't maintained,
Yeah. It's drifted away.
Exactly.
That's it, guys. I'm going to wrap up on that. That got a little bit deeper than intended, so apologies, but it's an interesting topic.
That's what the whole podcast is all about, getting deep, Mike, getting deep. Aaron.
Hello, Sean.
How are you?
What's the crack? So I'm going to talk a bit about friendship in your 40s / very early 50s /
very early 50s
/ whatever you want. Yeah, so I'm trying to, a few stats now. You mentioned a few before. I'm trying not to repeat them. 4-letter word time comes up a lot in the stats. Time is a major barrier for people nowadays to maintain friendships or make an effort to actually physically meet people, because everyone's busy doing this and that, Close friends. I think, Sean, you said about close friends, but did you know that 3 in 5 adults in Ireland suffer from loneliness because either they've no time to make friends or they're just too busy, and then the guilt doesn't help their mental health. So I didn't know that. So how often do we actually see our friends? So this is a good one now. So we see our friends like us. In reality, less often. You make more of an effort. So that's a good thing, I suppose. WhatsApp came up. Is WhatsApp enough? Probably not, but it's a massive help, isn't it?
Yeah.
Compared to years ago. I mean, the video calls, the texts, the WhatsApp groups. So how many groups are you in, lads? Who can top the record?
Question.
Roughly.
I'm in a lot of groups, but they're work related. I think WhatsApp is good for kind of maintaining connection, but it's probably not good for kind of deepening. Like you can't really have a kind of a very serious conversation via WhatsApp about something that's difficult. You know what I mean?
Well, you could, but you might send it to the wrong person. But that can happen a lot, can't it? So another thing that came up was, I'm just swatting a fly off Mo's head over here. Look, there's a big fly in his head. Another thing that came up is, when was the last time you told a friend something very personal or vulnerable? When you physically meet them, you go for a pint, talk shite for a few hours, or when was the last time you actually told someone something deep, if you get me, as regards to men, what men talk about?
I think what often happens for men is they need 4 or 5 pints to have that conversation. And then as a result of the 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 pints, they attempt to have that conversation. But obviously the alcohol probably impacts on the quality of the conversation.
The quality and the recollection. But I reckon the older you get, you do share a bit more. And you 3 guys will know I'm always sharing stuff and talk a lot of shite. But anyhow, probably too much at times, but it's just the way I am. But it seems to be getting better as regards mental health and life issues and all that kind of stuff, Yeah, I suppose men are good at creating a no judgment zone too, where just get together and you can talk about sport, music, drinks, whatever. But personally, I just like going for a few pints and talk bollocks for a few hours, you know. So
We're good at taking the piss out of each other too, which I think inadvertently sort of helps us. Strangely
I think male friendships tend to have kind of like a kind of activity attached to them. So we're probably not as good for kind of calling into each other and just having a cup of tea and a chat or a cup of coffee and a chat. It tends to be some type of activity related, going for a pint, playing around the golf, whatever.
Very good point. It's a very good point, mate.
Yeah. Whereas women are probably better at the just, interacting for the sake of interacting, having a conversation for the sake of a conversation. Whereas we tend to need to have something to do with the conversation.
Yeah, that's very kind because my wife will pop up to her friend for a coffee. Whereas with any of my friends over here, it will be let's go for beer. Or let's play. I don't know. Let's do whatever sporting activity, or will we do this or will we do that? It's very rare that I would say like, shall we catch up for coffee?
It tends to be, and I think as a result of that, then when you get relationships and kids and to Aaron's point, time in the mix. If your friendships are broadly based on activities and then you have less time, there's less time for those activities. So by definition, then there's less time for the friendships, and then consequentially the friendships suffer as a result. Whereas I don't think that happens to the same extent with women, because it's not so based on activities, or their friendships are not so based on activities. I mean, I know they're broad statements or general statements, but I think they're kind of true to the extent.
So basically then, I suppose, to wrap up a little bit on this section, the ideal thing is for everyone to get together, have a few pints, have a good rant, talk a bit of shite, and kind of like this podcast really, isn't
it? but without the pints, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, we'll do a real one in the summer. Hopefully, we'll all have a pint. But I
don't think we should totally associate a friendship with sculling pints and talking.
No, well, I was going to bring in a bit about the music, but we'll have that in the next podcast he's got. But the music sessions and the people I meet playing music is a big social thing for me as well, and not always drinking at that either. So music would be an important outlet to talk to people and people you wouldn't normally talk to about stuff,
That's another activity.
Can I say something to you here? And this is again, it was an interesting kind of, I suppose you would say, side effect. So my marriage breaking down and everything that went along with that, obviously in certain ways left me in a difficult spot, so to speak. A side effect of that was a kind of a rearranging of my friendships. So in other words, certain friends that perhaps, was number 9 or 10, again, I'm using this in general terms, I don't mean in specific terms, when that happened, were very supportive. And then certain friends that perhaps I had expected to be more supportive were a hell of a lot less supportive. So in essence, there was a real qualification in terms of the friendships that I had. So I think I after that experience, I had approximately less close friends, but I had a lot more, I suppose, admiration, respect, loyalty for the friends as a result of how they had treated and supported me during that period.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes something difficult happening in your life like that, certain friends come to the fore and maybe certain friends don't. But it's a good test proportionately of kind of friendships. Now, I know it doesn't suit everyone. And the other thing I would say is, I think a mistake we can also fall into is that we expect that we get everything from every single relationship, which isn't always the case either. So sometimes you can get one thing from one friendship or one relationship and you get something else somewhere else. You know what I mean? So we can put too much pressure on one individual to get everything from them. But definitely that was an interesting side effect, I suppose, of that experience.
Yeah. But that's a very good point you make. You go to one friend because he's a good listener, and or he'll be straight talking and he'll tell you probably what you don't want to hear, but what you probably need to hear. And then you have another friend who will just let you fucking get it all out and not be judgmental and just be a sponge and take it all in, like. So it's but it's
friends with benefits.
Different types of benefits, Mike.
Jesus, Mike, that's for part two of the friendship podcast. Friends with benefits. We'll have to have some female guests on for that podcast, man. Aaron, are you done, my friend?
I think I'm enough said, lads. Yeah, drive on. Fair play.
Okay, now, Niall,
Shawnee.
what have you got for us?
Yeah, so we've been friends, as we mentioned at the start of the podcast, for a kind of a long number of years now. So you'd like to think that we know each other fairly well at this point in time, or do we? So it's just a kind of bit of fun here, folks. So I've come up with 10 lightly statements. So I don't want us to kind of think about this too heavily, but I'd like us to all kind of vote who we think is the one most likely to do these things or these activities. And again, you can go for yourself, again, if you genuinely feel that it's yourself. So I have 10. Again, we don't need to debate them too heavily. So in order, folks, most likely to stay up drinking. Who do we think that would be?
Sean.
Aaron, who do you think?
I'd say me or Sean, yeah.
I would say, yeah, you are. So I'd probably go for Sean if I had to split between the two of you. So Sean, I think that's 4 votes, so you won that, no problem. Okay. Number 2, most likely to get into an argument.
Niall.
I'd probably say me as well, yeah. So no disagreement so far. Okay. Number 3, most likely to organise a get-together.
Oh, Sean or Aaron.
Sean.
Has everyone gone?
I go me.
Yeah, I'd probably go you as well.
Yeah.
Okay, this is unbelievable. Most likely to retire first.
Sean.
Why do you say that, guys?
I'm not so sure.
I'm not so sure. I'm gonna say Mike, actually.
Actually, I'm going to go Mike now, but yeah, I was just thinking about it. Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, I'd probably likely say you, Aaron, ironically enough, but I think that's two votes for Mike, one for Aaron, one for Sean. So I think Mike just gets that by a nose. Okay,
Yeah. I'm going for Barney behind me. Go on.
Most likely to start a new career at 52 or 53.
Sean, maybe. Well, I think we've popped that cherry, Sean. 2 of us.
True.
Yeah.
Who are you saying, Aaron?
I might start being a male model.
You're voting for yourself.
I think they're trying to revive Mandels.
There's plenty of room in the office for a poll. Go on.
Yeah, I think I'd go with you as well, Sean.
Yeah. I would say probably me.
Most likely to go off grid and move to Portugal.
Me or Sean. Actually, Sean.
Me. I go me. Yeah.
And I wouldn't go to Portugal. You go North Spain.
Well, it can be.
I do. Portugal would be on the list. Yeah.
Aaron, who are you going for?
Sean.
I think I'd go for you as well, Sean. Just about. Most likely to remember something none of us do.
Aaron.
Probably me. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree, Aaron. Yeah.
A random useless fact.
I would be inclined to say Sean there, but Aaron has 3 votes, so he gets it. Most likely to bring up something embarrassing from 1996.
Niall and Aaron.
Although Mike is pretty good at that. I'd say that's an even spread. I don't know.
I'd probably go for you, Niall, but you probably have had a few drinks in you before you do it.
Well, yeah, I didn't say there was any alcohol involved. No, that's yeah. So I would probably go for you, Sean, as it turns out, but I think that I have 2 votes there. Most likely to fall asleep during a romantic movie.
All of us.
Yeah, but we have to vote for someone.
Well, we have to go and see one first. It's been so long, but I don't know.
Well, did you say you fell asleep in an Oasis concert, Niall? So
it was Blur.
Or Blur, was it? Sorry.
No, Blur, actually, as it turns out. Yeah. I'd like to think I'd stay awake for an Oasis concert, but I don't.
Yeah.
Okay,
who are we saying?
I'd fall asleep, definitely.
Okay, so we're saying we're all. I actually think
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, and most likely to quietly give to charity.
Mike.
I'd say Mike as well, yeah.
I'd say Mike as well, yeah.
Well, I did something to weekend, so I'll have to agree with you, yeah.
Okay. All right, so just before we finish up then, guys, so this entire podcast, I suppose, has been a discussion on friendship. We're 4 friends doing this podcast, so in a sense, it's come as a result of our friendship. And as I said in the very first podcast, we used to have kind of a once a month WhatsApp call, decided to turn into a podcast, and this is the kind of net result. Like our friendships, which have lasted, and I think you said this at the very start, Shawnee, that the average podcast, I think, gets to about 3 podcast. So this is number 9, if I'm not mistaken. So like our friendships, the podcast is now outlasting the average. But I suppose it's been a very different interaction. It's been different. It's changed, obviously, how we kind of interact and communicate, all of that type of stuff. So I want to ask the question, and I want us to give us an honest answer. Has this podcast been good or bad for our friendship? So starting with yourself, Aaron, has it been good or bad? What do you think?
I think most of it's been good. I mean, it's obviously hard to get 4 lads together to record, but we're getting a bit better at that. It's been good for us as individuals because this is totally like out of all our comfort zones, and now we're out there, Spotify, all the socials. So like I'm getting a bit more confident now, but at the start it was, oh my God, it's a massive thing, but it's a good thing to do. So yeah, I think it's been good.
Okay, so you're saying in overall terms it's been good for the friendships. Mike, what do you think yourself? Good or bad for our friendships?
Definitely good. I think we've revisited an awful lot of stuff that we had forgotten in the last few months, especially while putting together some content for podcasts and stuff like that. For me personally, I don't have a whole pile of hobbies outside of work and life and coming home, unless DIY is classed as a hobby. I suppose that's what I do, go out and potter around the shed and the garden and do bits and pieces of that. So this has been something for me to get into midweek when I can. It's been good so far. I've enjoyed it.
Shawnee, what do you think?
Yeah, it's been good and interesting in many respects because it's been interesting because we've had to learn how we kind of work in a structured environment.
I agree totally, yeah.
And we're discovering stuff about ourselves and about each other that we might not have known before. Which is interesting. It's really, and also it's been good because we're actually we're more in contact now than we ever were before we started the podcast. So it's good, and it's good in the sense that we're actually producing something for us as a group together. That's going out into the world. We can. If we get to 10 and we stop, or we get to 110, at least we can look back and say, hey, we did this. Isn't it cool? And as Mike says, it's good fun bringing back memories and sharing those memories with the general public.
Yeah, 100%. I'd pretty much agree with everything that you said. And again, I go back to an earlier point that I made in terms of particularly with male friendships and activities. In a sense, this is an activity. So I think it facilitates the friendship in that sense. However, I would agree with you, Sean, and I'd hold my hand up here straight away in terms of I would certainly imagine you guys are learning things about me that perhaps you didn't know beforehand. So I'm sure I'm raking your head on occasion. But again, that's a good, to my mind, that's a good aspect of it,
Yeah. Just to give the audience an example of that. So we were prepping for today's episode, and Niall was sending WhatsApp messages. Don't forget this. Don't forget this. I had everything on my notes, everything that he was sending me. I said, I got it on the notes. Yeah. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. I put my phone on silent when I see Niall's messages coming up. It's too stressful.
So for episode 10 then, Shawnee?
Oh, yeah. This episode 10, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be a good one, and it's a topic very close to our hearts, and particularly me and Aaron. It's going to be about music from the 80s and 90s, especially kind of St. Patrick's Day theme, if I can put it like that, and we focus on Irish music that we grew up with during the 80s and 90s. I'm fairly confident we might have a quiz come back into that one. I don't know if I'll be allowed to be the quiz master this time round, but that's coming up in episode 10, and we'll have that out shortly.
You were too harsh in the last quiz, so you're not doing it.
Yeah. I can understand.
Make sure Aaron gets the questions before the podcast, whatever happens.
Exactly.
We'll do a separate list for Aaron of questions that actually won't come up in the podcast. But I think that's it. And if it's okay, I'll leave you with a quote from C.S. Lewis on friendship. Friendship is born at the moment when one person says to another, "What? You too? I thought I was the only one."
Very good.
All right.
What a boss.
Very good, Shawnee.
All right. It's goodbye for me.
Bye for Mike.
See you, folks.
Cheers, lads. Bye.
We'll
Bye-bye.
see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Suppose a ride is out of the question.
Down with this sort of thing. Careful now.